Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. This week our special guest is Dr. Taylor Tidmore, AISD Board Trustee. Dr. Tidmore, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Last time I was just running for school board, so now I'm actually on school board. So it's been an interesting year. I've learned a lot and really enjoyed being on school board the last year, but it's been definitely an educational experience for me.
Educational experience, pun intended there.
Yeah.
Let's start with the big picture, if you will. Federal dollars were recently released that would impact programs like adult education and various programs within AISD. Tell me what happened with the federal education funding and certainly how it was going to affect public schools and now how it's going to affect public schools here locally.
Yeah, I think thankfully it really didn't affect any of our student programs directly just because a lot of this happened during the summer. Obviously, I think it did create a little bit of just chaos and uncertainty there for several weeks. Obviously, the federal government came out and said they're going to be withholding a lot of federal educational funds. Some of those funds specifically go to our adult education program. And so that program is actually a partnership between the Texas Workforce Commission and the district. And so the Texas Workforce Commission came to us and said, hey, don't plan on these funds being available next year. You need to plan accordingly. And so that's what the district did. So the district made the difficult decision that, hey, we're probably going to have to shut down our adult education program. Well, a couple weeks later, the federal government pivots. They say, okay, we are going to release these funds. And so the district sort of had to pivot too and say, okay, we can have our adult education program as planned next year. I think the caveat to that is those funds have not been released yet, and we don't know when we're going to receive those funds. And so there is some cushion right now to pay for adult education, to pay for that program and those teachers. But if those federal funds aren't released in an efficient way or in a timely manner, there will be a time where that cushion runs out, and then the district may have to make some more difficult decisions again about the future of adult education. I think if anything, it just makes it sort of difficult to plan and budget for the future when you're just sort of uncertain about, are funds going to be there? Mm-hmm. Okay, they're going to be there. When are we going to get them? What are we going to do in the meantime? And so, like I said, I think it just creates a little bit of chaos and inability to plan well for the future when these sort of things happen.
Mas or menos, what is the ballpark amount that the school district kind of sections off, partitions for adult education and programs like this?
I think it's about $900,000.
Wow,
so
it's almost $1 million.
Yeah, and so a lot of that obviously is going towards salaries for our teachers who participate only in adult ed. So yeah, it's a decent chunk of money. I think there was about a little over $3 million that we were really concerned that we weren't going to get. A big chunk of that was for adult ed. Another big chunk were for something called Title II, Title III, and Title IV funds. And a lot of those funds go to help a lot of our students who are coming to us from other parts of the world, students who maybe English isn't their primary language. And so we had some concerns about affecting those sort of programs as well.
Yeah. The overall scope of things, I know you mentioned adult education, and if you can, expand on what exactly adult education is, and maybe if there were any other programs that might have been affected by these potential cuts, or what was going to be cuts, what were going to be cuts here in the district.
Yeah, I think if we had to cut the adult education program, our goal was to keep open our GED testing center and to kind of keep our dropout prevention program running. But we were going to have to drop a lot of the day-to-day classes that are available for students who are trying to complete their education. There are daytime classes, there's nighttime classes, I went to the adult education graduation last year, and those students range in age from 60 to 50 years old. They had overcome all sorts of obstacles in life to finish their degree, to further their education. And so it's a program that offers, lots of different services. But like I said, I think the big thing we were going to lose is that day-to-day instruction that those students really need to be able to go forward and pass that, GED test.
Wow. And so, I know you've only been on the school board for a very short time, but I guess conversating with people, talking to them about that particular program, was that a big thing for them, and certainly around the school district?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started this, I didn't even know we had an adult education program, to be real honest. So I think that was, I think our district offers a lot to our community, and that was just another thing that we offer, that we're the only people who offer that. So if that service goes away, no one else is really doing that work, And so, I remember the graduation, there's a guy there in his 50s. I think he was, had come over here from another country, had been here a long time working hard. And, it was a big deal for him and his family to complete that next step. And so those students, that's a free service to them, And so it'd be a big loss in our community if that happens. Like I said, hopefully it doesn't look like that's going to be the case right now. But
Sure.
You never know what's going to happen in the future either.
Yeah. Tell me, while the funding was delayed, how did the district manage? Were there hard choices to make at that point when all this was circulating?
Yeah, I mean, I think you never want to cut a program or end a program, So I think, especially when it came to adult ed, that was the biggest decision. It was just like, is there any way we can make this work?
Right.
In a time where a lot of districts in the state are facing a deficit budget, there's just not extra money to come up with, to support these sort of things. And so when you lose that funding, difficult decisions have to be made, And so that was the plan there for several weeks, was we're going to have to, close this program, unfortunately.
Was it almost having to be a difficult situation, having to relay that information to folks who were enrolling in these programs? I mean,
yeah, I think from my standpoint, some of the most difficult conversations are for the gentleman, Jeff Howe, who runs that program, and the teachers who are very passionate about those students, that that's the work they pour their heart and soul into, and to all of a sudden find out, oh, that's not going to be available. I'm going to have to shift course. Those people were going to maintain jobs within the district, but, not doing what they had been doing for a long time and felt really passionate about.
Sure. Was there... I mean, and it's now that we can kind of armchair quarterback this at this point here. Was there kind of a backup plan? Was there anything that could have kept this afloat for a short period of time, or was this going to completely go away?
I mean, I think the thought was it was probably going to completely go away. Those funds just weren't available. Like I said, we wanted to keep our GED testing center open. We wanted to keep our sort of dropout prevention program going, but most of the other program was going to go away. I mean, it would have been up to just someone else in the community to pick up, that program and run with it. But, I think it all happened so quickly, too, that there wasn't a lot of time to figure out all the details of what that was going to look like.
Right.
So.
Right. All right, we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more with Dr. Taylor Tidmore, AISD Board Trustee, as we kind of unpack more of the federal dollars that were released, and certainly the steps moving forward that the school district is going to take as they move forward with this new initiative, as they are able to help others, certainly with adult education. That and more after the break.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to the Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. This week our special guest is Dr. Taylor Tidmore, AISD Board Trustee. We're talking certainly the federal dollars that were released that were going to impact a program like adult education. As we kind of, move forward with this conversation here, tell me, how heavily does AISD rely on federal funding? How big is that piece of the puzzle when it comes to that?
Yeah, I think last year the district got about $28 million in federal funding, whereas funding on a state and local level was about $154 million. So definitely most of our funding is coming from the state and local level, but $28 million is still a big chunk of the budget. When I think about federal dollars, to me, that money really goes to help a lot of our students who are facing some additional challenges and additional obstacles in their education. A lot of people have heard of Title I. Title I funds are federal dollars. They go to help a lot of our schools that have a lot of low-income students. Obviously, that money was going to go towards adult education. Some of that money goes towards our special education program. Some of that money goes to help offset the cost of the district having to take care of some of our students who have a lot of really high-end physical needs, like students who are wheelchair bound, who require a lot of one-on-one care or tube feeding. And then also I think a lot of those funds go to help our students who are coming to us from other parts of the world, students who maybe English is not their first language, are bilingual students. So like I said, when I think of federal dollars, I think of dollars that are really helping a lot of our students, like I said, that face some additional challenges in their educational experience.
Yeah. It survived this round. The federal government said, you know what, we're just gonna go out and we're gonna move forward with this. Are y'all concerned that in the future that it may not survive that this program, these type of programs like this may go away?
Yeah. I think we're already seeing that. Like I said, those funds we receive to take care of those like students with a lot of physical needs, we got about $4 million in those funds 3 or 4 years ago. This year it'll be $1 million. So we're already seeing a lot of these federal funds shrinking. And so I think in our current political environment, anything's possible. I don't know if there'll be a complete loss of those funds. I think a more realistic thing that might occur is that there's so many compliance guidelines and regulations attached to those funds that it almost just becomes impossible for a district to be able to keep up with all the guidelines and all the strings attached to use those funds in a way and stay compliant. And so like I said, can't predict the future, but I think we're already seeing just in the last few years that federal money is starting to shrink a little bit, and who knows what the future of it will be.
Tell me, are there any backup plans, safety nets the school district might have in place if federal support disappears, whether it's regarding a program like this or anything else?
Yeah. There's not a lot of backup. There's not a lot of safety net. Just, like 60% of the districts in Texas, AISD adopted a deficit budget last year. And so funding for public education really hasn't increased since 2019, yet the cost of running a district's gone up about 20% over that time period. And so districts are asked to do the same job or even more with fewer inadequate resources. And so when you're just struggling to make ends meet, there's not a safety net, for when these sort of things happen, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Yeah. As we land the plane here, and I appreciate your time, and certainly it's interesting to always hear about things like this from a public school perspective. Dr. Kuhn really laid it out about a month and change ago as one of our most viewed political videos on our website, Big Country homepage. If you could tell parents, viewers, listeners, one thing about why programs like this matter, what would it be?
Well, I mean, education is written into our state constitution. Everyone has a right to an excellent education. And when our public schools are not being funded adequately, ultimately it's our students who are going to hurt and pay the price. Like I said, AISD adopted a $13 million deficit budget last year through a lot of difficult decisions and hard work. That deficit's going to be cut in half this year. 80% of our budget comes from teacher and staff salaries. And so when you want to make a big dent in a budget, unfortunately, salaries is where you have to look. Fortunately, we haven't had to do a lot of forced layoffs, but as teachers and staff leave our district or retire, most of them are not being replaced. And so that means we're asking our current teachers and our current staff to do more, to pick up the slack. And as we stretch those people thinner and thinner, ultimately it's the students who are going to suffer. And so, if our state doesn't change the way we fund public education in the next few years, it's really the children of our state who are going to ultimately pay the price.
Well, Dr. Tidmore, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right. For Dr. Taylor Tidmore, AISD Board Trustee, I am Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.